Well, hi, and welcome to my shop here this morning. It's April 9th today. So today I'm going to try to knock the hum out of this radio and then find out how well it works with all of its original parts after doing that. But first, two things to talk about. One of them is the terrible, noisy environment here in my shop, which I have attempted to correct a number of times, completely unsuccessfully. I had tremendous success last night by just following a slightly different practice than I've done in the past. And unfortunately, I don't have it here in my hand. I have a small portable AM radio. Lots of people have tried this. You turn on your AM radio, there's all that noise in your house, and you walk around trying to find that noise. Well, I've done that. I don't know how many times I've done that, both in this house and my old house, and again and again I've tried this. Totally unsuccessful. But yesterday I was successful immediately. What did I do different? Very simple. Instead of just tuning the radio between stations, and there aren't many AM stations to receive here where I live, strong ones anyway, especially during the day, I tuned in a local station. Local station, it's like 100 miles away. It's still quite weak on the radio, but strong enough to listen to. It's a French station. I commonly use it to separate weak radios from strong radios. I tuned in that station and then did not wander around with the radio. I just put it here on my bench. This is where I'm interested in the noise environment anyway. I just happen to have it here. And I started pulling out my various power supplies, like this. And it just took me seconds to discover 4 separate little power supplies, all of them causing noise in here. Why so easy? And before, I had been driven nuts trying to do this kind of stuff because I had a station tuned in on the radio. So I think that made all the difference. With a station tuned in on the radio, my radio's ABC was under control from that station. So the ABC level would remain relatively the same, even as the noises went up and down. I could hear coming out of the radio in the background. I think without a station tuned in, then the ABC is going to run on whatever noise it's picking up. And I think that's what's driven me nuts. As I've walked around the house, the radio sensitivity is going up and down and constantly providing a fairly constant noise out the speaker. Yeah, it changes as you walk around, but good luck trying to get some sense of direction or anything out of that. Tune in a station, like a moderate station, it kind of fixes the ABC level in the radio a little bit, and now as you walk around, those noise signals go up and down. You can hear their variation, whereas you can't before. I think that's the difference. So these two guys, two of them here, are powering my lights in here. Just a light bring it off, and it's in view of the camera. This light. So you think, wow, man, look at these are light as a feather. There's no transformer in them. I know enough to know these are noisemakers. But all my previous testing suggested they just weren't important. I was just misled by the automatic volume control in the radio. That's what I believed. So these are taken apart because I wanted to get the connector out so I could use it in my newly established light supply system. Noiseless light supply system. If you look way over here, my lights are powered from this power supply now. In silence. I also knocked out 2 other noise sources in here. This way. This one. I'm going to look over here and see it. So look at this thing. This is a great big thing. This is really heavy. It says right on it, transformer. So, dumb me, I assume, well, if it's got a transformer in it, it's not going to be one of those horrible things. This is putting out a ton of noise. Fortunately, I don't need it. It's just powering a little CB radio I have on all the time, monitoring for skip. I don't need it. So anyway, I think I have a nice quiet shop here. A stunning difference made by doing this. The other thing is too, I thought trying to arrest the noise level in my shop's a hopeless case. I've got a big computer sitting down here. I've got 2 screens. I've got cameras and cords and all kinds of stuff. All that noise. Now, let me not stop just yet. So I discovered the other day, I showed on video, that this power supply which is a little light for the size of it, is powering a USB splitter. Okay, here's the USB splitter. When I disconnected this power supply, I discovered that you didn't need it to run the splitter. There's enough power coming through the computer to operate the 2 cameras I had plugged in this. When I took the power supply off it, this thing became much more noisy. It's kind of counterintuitive. You know, everything's counterintuitive. So I don't need this. I found out a way to do without it, and consequently, I think I've got a much quieter shop. And I'm kind of sorry that I gave up on these hunts earlier. Remember the trick: tune a station in on your AM radio and then run around. See what you can find. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2. Number 2 is another website full of interesting information, and this one is called worldometer.info. Worldometer.info. It's all one word, of course. Check that one out. Lots of interesting information about the current situation in the world. An awful lot of these reporting sites that are tallying numbers, I think, are fishing them all from the WHO. I'm not really sure exactly how they do it, but I think that's where they're coming from. That one's got all kinds of comparisons and ratios and things to look at, so you can compare country to country. Although I would caution anybody, comparing all this data country to country is probably difficult, certainly in terms of small differences and things like that, because who collects this data the same way? Nobody. So there's a lot of problems with that right at the root of the data on these things. But anyway, it gives you something to look at. Changes are still valid. The actual number may be wrong, but if the number is increasing, whatever's going on is increasing. You just may not know the precise number. Later today, I think today or tomorrow, the Canadian federal government is going to release its projections, which it's been holding on to on the basis that they're unreliable, or not reliable enough, or not useful enough to be made public. But that's coming today, so that'll be quite interesting to me. Of course, I'm in Canada. In my own, I might as well just finish this off. In my own town here, city of Aurelia, 30,000 people, I believe there's 2 cases. I'm not sure of that. There's some local information that's that granular. So I think there's 2 cases. There's been 1 death in Aurelia very early on. One of the earliest deaths in Canada took place in Aurelia. Yikes. Okay, enough of that. Now, when I'm going to do this filter capacitor here, as usual, I'm kind of looking for the easiest way to do it. The capacitor itself is right up here. It's got all of these guys right around it. Great big terminals, lots of wires hooked up to them. So I haven't quite decided how I'm going to approach this. It's just 2 capacitors, so it's not that big a deal. But unless I put a terminal strip in somewhere in here, lots of space here. There's the capacitor going right to the chassis. No mistaking that. Anyway, that's what I got to figure out. Where am I going to put those? How am I going to do this, and where am I going to do it? We could put a terminal strip here, but that's far away from where all these wires go. All these wires go here right now. This is really the spot to try to augment this if you want to get away with the least work possible. The original capacitor is riveted in. Yeah, so that's not coming out easily. The terminals, it looks like if you nipped a little piece here, a little piece here, you might be that looks like that's worth trying. If I nip those little tiny pieces here, this whole capacitor might fall off. It's just one that's really not nippable. Well, you know what, if I get 2, I can push this over maybe. Let's try it. It's going to be junk anyway. Woke up this morning to snow on the ground again. And apparently that's not very good. More snow coming tonight. It's really not what I wanted to hear. Okay. I think I can get these ones easy here. Let's see. Oh, wait a minute. This isn't quite what I thought it was. Yes, it is. It actually is done that way. Now the last one. So I've never done this before. Just make a note here. 30. Well, 30 here. 30. It says 30, 50. And this must be the ground one at the back here. Or the negative. Better not say ground. B minus. There it goes. Huh. Right off. $30, $50, negative. Well, this gives us some interesting opportunities here. The terminals are pretty much falling back through here now. I could put two new capacitors sitting up on top here and have the wires come down under. And you know, that's going to be just fine. That'll be a very good way to do this. Okay. That's the plan there. So in the end here I have a great opportunity. I've taken two capacitors, joined the negative, and I can just push it through the terminal openings here. And the wires are going to come out right where the terminals are underneath. They can sit just like that. Or they can sit just like that. Up in here. Very hard to see, but I think I can pull it off. Good. Solder all that up. Okay, I think that's done. Now in the meantime I cut one of the antenna wires off, thinking that would make things more convenient. So we don't have the antenna connected. I never soldered this wire here either. Let's test the radio. I'm going to want to hook this up. And you know what, this is the ground one here. And I see the antenna one, it's actually been extended. Poorly done, but okay, let me solder the extended wire on. So I just spent the last half hour or so watching the Canadian federal government reveal its COVID data. Oh, I'm not supposed to say that word. And very interesting, excellent presentation. Wide-ranging numbers. I think that's the reality, is predicting this thing is so dependent on a number of poorly controlled factors, including how I personally behave and everybody else in the country. The predictions are very, very wide-ranging. soldered on. And now this one's a little short. Let's just solder it on for this test. Don't worry about it. Well, if you're a Canadian, remember this important number. Every day, every normal day, 750 Canadians pass away on a normal day. 750 a day is a normal number. So when you hear all these other numbers, put them in some perspective. I'm not trying to make it light or anything about it. Not at all. But it helps give some perspective and maybe make us feel just a little more comfortable with the numbers that we hear. 750 a day. In the United States, it's 7,500 a day normally pass away. In the world, it's 160,000 people normally every day. Okay, I think we're ready to test this guy. Not to say 160,000 is the right number. That involves a lot of people dying essentially unnecessarily in the world because of poverty and stuff like that. So that number could actually be lower if the world cared to make it that way. Let's see if we can take a few of the squeaks out of this. Wow, just shot everywhere. There. Much better. Okay. Yeah, we'll leave it at that for now. Switch is on, power is off, plug is in. Okay, having done the capacitors here, very much want to watch this light in case I've once again put them in backwards. Nope, appear to have done it correctly. Yes, for some reason, about 30% of the time when I do that kind of job, I get the capacitors backwards. Maybe not 30%. Maybe I'll say 10%. There we go. No hum. Now, does it work? Sounds good. Not receiving anything. And can you tell? It's not nearly as noisy in my shop as it usually is. Okay, let's give it a little bit of booster help here. So this is just a way of interfacing an outdoor antenna with the antenna on the radio here. It's kind of a crazy looking thing, but it's not so crazy. Now, antenna, I know for sure I switched the antenna off. I'm going to have to run and switch it on. Yeah. Let me just run briefly through my house. Switch it on here. The wide-ranging prediction in Canada is 15,000 to 300,000. That's how wide-ranging it is. So that tells you something for sure. Now let's see if we can get. Let me get the cabinet and just look at the numbers. So we want the French station. It's almost straight up. It's right up in here. 860. 860. Not getting very good interaction. These antennas are actually not. Oh, what was all that? What was that? I got the volume turned right down. Okay, can't get any closer than that. Something's not working right. If the radio's not working right, maybe that's what I'm finding out here. That's the French station. So 860 is being picked up down here. Unless that pointer is simply way out of whack. Let's see, the pointer shouldn't go below. Oh, it's just way out of whack. That's probably me when I took it out of the cabinet. There we go. That's roughly correct. Good reception. Now that's with the booster antenna, of course. Let's see what it can do on its own. Not bad. Try the lower stations down here. Fantastic. 680. This is those statistics that Canada is publishing are to the end of the, well, we'll call it the first wave, but the end of, up until we have a vaccine, assuming 18 months. That's a big assumption. Could be much sooner, it could be much later, it could be never. So never is a possibility here. So just wide-ranging numbers. Still noise in here, but not nearly what there was. Good. Okay. Radio switch is off. Very good. So next step will be fiddle with the alignment and then judge the operation of the radio. Still could test the tubes. Still have lots of capacitors that are worthy of changing under there. They certainly look pretty worthy. Hey, what are you doing way up in the air here? Come on down. Okay, that's it for today. So have a good day, stay safe, and we'll go another step tomorrow and see just how good this radio really works.